For nearly 7,000 years, the High Elves cultivated a shining, magical kingdom, hidden deep within the forests of northern Lordaeron. But 5 years ago, the undead Scourge invaded Quel'Thalas and drove the elves to the brink of extinction. Led by the evil Death Knight Arthas, the Scourge destroyed the mystical Sunwell, thereby severing the elves from the source of their arcane power. Though the scars of that conflict are evident, the remaining elves have banded together and retaken much of their homeland. Calling themselves Blood Elves, these grim survivors are committed to regaining the vast powers they once commanded. Inspired by the leadership of their beloved prince, Kael'thas Sunstrider, the Blood Elves now seek new sources of arcane magic and the means of defending their land against the undying horrors of the Scourge. As one of the few surviving Blood Elves, you must master your thirst for magic and help shape the destiny of your people.
Talk about Blood Elves, and we're going to talk about some stuff about BlizzCon Online and what options that WoW might have. Of course, they might go in totally different directions than what we think, so we'll see if they do bring it out. So, I know the Blood Elves are your favorite race. So
Nope.
Why don't you start us off?
Well, the Blood Elves are a proud, haughty race, joining the Horde in Burning Crusade. They represent a faction of former High Elves, split off from the rest of the Elven society, and they are also survivors of Arthas' assault on Silvermoon. Blood Elves are fully dependent on magic, having reveled in its power for so long that they suffer horrible withdrawals if it were to be taken away from them. They're power drunk. They're magic drunk. I don't like them people.
Well, you start. The Blood Elves have rebuilt Silvermoon City, so that's their capital city, and they start in Eversong Woods. And the classes that you can be as a Blood Elf is a hunter, mage, paladin, priest, rogue, warlock, and warrior. And their mounts, I don't know if you like their mounts or not. The Winnestrada in Eversong Woods sells numerous Hawkstriders. Trellis Morning Sun at the Argent Tournament sells a few unique models of it.
They look like a chocobo.
Yep, that's right. They do.
No, the only thing that I like about Blood Elves, the only thing, because for one, the females dance like Shakira, and that's just weird. But the only thing I like about the Blood Elves is their racial. It is the best racial for PvP. I hate how the models look, but I might make one just for the PvP racial. For doing arena, because their racial is Arcane Torment or Arcane Torrent. It's one of their racials. It removes one beneficial effect from all enemies within 8 yards and restores 3% of your mana, 15 energy, 15 rage, 15 focus, 1 holy power when it's used. That's hateful.
Now, before we go any farther, that those classes that I mentioned are probably different in the classic Burning Crusade, because what I'm reading is an updated, because it mentions Death Knights and Monks. So I know paladins, mages, and warlocks. I'm pretty sure rogues, but I'm not sure about the priest or hunter. I could, they could be. I don't know. But another one of their racials is arcane acuity. Increases critical strike chance by 1%.
Then they have arcane affinity, enchanting skill increased by 10. Pretty good.
You sound so excited talking about the
enchanting. No, I just don't like the enchanting skill. Period. It takes too long.
Arcane resistance reduces arcane damage taken by 1%, which we say any resistance is always a plus, anyways.
Yeah, resistances are always nice to have.
Yeah. Sorry, my watch fell off. But there ain't really much else. We could go into the whole story about the Blood Elves. That would make Brandon really happy, but I don't think we're going to go too much into that. So, my mouse disappeared on my computer, so I can't do nothing right now. Let's see. I'm trying to get to the other screen. Alright, now we're going to go to talk a little bit about BlizzCon Live. Now, I've kind of read a bunch of stuff on it, and they said that some stuff's been leaked, like the Burning Crusade is coming out, but you got to take it with a grain of salt what might have been leaked, because it might not have been true. I'm reading what's hearsay from this person that said this person said this person said. So you gotta take what we're gonna say with a grain of salt. I could be wrong. It could be just somebody saying, "Hey, it'd be cool to say this." But I'm saying it because I'm hoping it's true. And there's also a leak that it might even have the beta coming out. They might announce the beta at BlizzCon Live, which I'm really hoping they'll do that. Now, also, if I can bring up this other thing, let's see, where is it? It's gonna take me a minute because my mouse is invisible. Alright, they said that the Moon Touch Netherwelt pet hints at TBC Classic announcement at BlizzCon Live. So the Moon Touch Netherwelt pet is the latest in a series of hints pointing to a TBC Classic announcement, because over the past few months we've seen surveys sent out by Blizzard asking for opinions about TBC Classic, Blizzard reviving the Classic beta category on the Battle.net app, and some class bug fixes that weren't originally fixed until Burning Crusade. So now to celebrate Blizzard's 30th anniversary leading up to BlizzCon Live, you can acquire the Moon Touch Netherwhelp from the Celebration Collection. Now the Moon Touch Netherwhelp model is a high-definition version of the Netherwhelp pet, which is obtainable from the TBC Collector's Edition. So people are thinking, since that's out, that TBC is going to be coming.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I'll try to get back.
I'm also hoping with this, with BlizzCon, I'm hoping that they do something else as well. Since you were just talking about BlizzCon,
like what?
I'm hoping, because I've kind of gotten into the hardcore community.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping that maybe Blizzard will announce that they're going to give the hardcore community a hardcore server, to where they don't have to stream. I mean, they can still stream, but they can be recognized as somebody who got to 60 without dying.
Yeah. That if your tune dies, you have to start all over?
Yeah, and you can't use the auction house, so go ahead and take auction house and mailboxes away. Because you can't use the auction house and you can't use the mailbox. You can't trade with other people unless you're a duo team. You can only use things that you obtain through quests that drops off of the ground, or that you win if you go into a dungeon. You can only do a dungeon one time. You only have one dungeon ID per character. So you can only go through Dead Mines once. You can only go through SFK once.
Yeah, did we
And you
ever
can,
talk about the rules for hardcore? Or
I don't think so.
Because that's more or less what you're doing, so...
Yeah. But you were just saying about BlizzCon.
Yeah.
Not to go into a lot of detail about the hardcore, but, just maybe they'll give them a server. I think that would be cool. It's a big community.
It would stop a bunch of the griefing that the other side is doing.
Yeah.
Because whenever they have a tournament and the other side goes and starts killing all the quest givers and everything else, so
Or
people can't do nothing.
somebody will kite Teremis, the dragon, all the way through and kill all the hardcore players when they're trying to do something.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
they just had a tournament for 1,000. The winner got $400. I mean, and that comes out of their pockets.
Yeah.
Hardcore community's pockets. So they're good. It's a good community. That's where you're going to see me streaming a lot. Is doing hardcore.
And we're actually talking to one or two of them to actually come on and talk sometime.
Yeah.
On our other podcast, Wildilla. So hopefully we get one of them. So, but we'll keep you up to date on that one on the podcast of Wildilla. But so there's been a lot of debates on what's going to happen with what will happen to Classic World of Warcraft when Burning Crusade launches. So there's several options they have to consider, but every one of them has problems. So like Classic WoW stays indefinitely, meaning this is an attractive option for some players, but doesn't hold up so well in reality. As time goes on, most players will all be level 60 and potentially have a level 60 for each available class. There will be very few new players attracted to the game, and very few people for them to play with if they did. Virtually no one will be running older leveling content like dungeons or open world quests, and the whole player base is level 60. Then the open world would be essentially empty. Players would just log on twice a week to raid, only seeing the capital city and the inside of a raid. So furthermore, this version of Classic would reward players who have played for the most time and who sink the most time in the game. There will be players who end up with all the best gear and who absolutely decimate players who are on their way up. This happens much less when the game is released in phases because people naturally complete content at their own rate, so there's much more of an equal playing field. So what they're saying is that nothing ever changes, Classic WoW just stays, and there's no expansions, anything. So that's one thing that could happen. No Burning Crusade, no Wrath of the Lich King, nothing. Just Classic WoW. Do you think that's an option that they'll do?
No. No. You're going to kill your entire... You have a lot of your player base that came back for Classic WoW, yes.
Yeah. Because
but
there's different options people could do. Like you were talking about hardcore. There's people doing hardcore. They're having hardcore tournaments. They're seeing if they can level that tool up to 60 and never die. And I can tell you right now, I have never done that.
I couldn't do it. I'm going to do it. But, yeah, I don't think that this is something they'll do. Just, you'll have your people who like being at the top, and they'll always be at the top, and they've made it to the top in Classic, and that's where they want to stay. Yeah. And your hardcore of your hardcore of your hardcore Classic players, not hardcore community, but your hardcore Classic players themselves, multi-lifers, will stay, would like that. But I'm going to guarantee you that probably 80 to 85% of your population is not going to like it.
Now, I think no matter what they do, I think they should at least keep one Classic World of Warcraft, no matter however they do it. Because there's going to be people who will want to remember it and play it, and some people just want to play it all the time.
Yeah.
So there won't be just people signing on twice a week to raid and then never touching it. I think there will be actually people still playing it. And
I don't think there would be. Not in the fact of playing it like we used to play it, where you run out and do stuff.
Yeah.
People wouldn't be doing world quests anymore. World quests wouldn't get completed. You would have your people who logged on. Ooh, I want to check this game out. Like for instance, my kids, if they wanted to check it out, they started out low like that. I make them start out where I started out at the classic.
Yeah, you want to play? You're going to play where Daddy started.
Yeah, and then they're stuck doing this stuff, and they don't have anybody to level with. Yep. So I mean, I don't think that would be. I mean, maybe keep a couple of servers for those guys, but
let's go into prestige servers. This would mean that Blizzard would periodically reset classic servers every 18 months or 2 years, putting all players back to square one. This option is likely more appealing to the hardcore private server players than your average player. This is something that did happen on private servers. Sometimes it happened intentionally, and sometimes a server would get shut down and players would have to start fresh on a new server. This solution is unlikely to be popular with casual players, since they won't want to lose all their progress for seemingly no reason. People get very attached to their characters, and understandably so. Hitting your goals in this game is incredibly time consuming. So yeah, nobody would want that at all. And if they did a reset, whatever, for Burning Crusade, yeah, they would not.
Since Blizzard has taken over Call of Duty, I guess now they do prestiging in that game. Where when you prestige, you lose everything that you've done. You start back at level 1, but you have like this little badge or whatever that shows that you did that. I mean, that should be. I mean, maybe if they wanted to do that as an option for people, to allow them to prestige, and it shows a little badge. Oh, I did this, but
yeah, that would, like I said, it would probably work for the hardcore community, but for casual players, not so much.
Yeah.
And then transferring or copying characters to TBC servers. Character transfer would involve the player porting their character over to a TBC server, and that character ceasing to exist on a classic server. Copying would allow you to have a character of both classic and TBC. Both of these options have problems. Like, how do they ensure that servers are balanced rather than hugely favoring one faction? And how do they handle character names and guild names moving onto new servers, or when classic servers inevitably have to merge due to low population counts? And will players try to play the economy by stockpiling items on their classic character and then copying the character across the TBC to sell the items in the auction house? I don't think that last one's really going to be too much of a problem, because even if they stayed on the classic server and it like just merged into TBC, they're going to have all those items anyways. So I don't think that'd be too much of a problem. But now transferring character names and guild names, now that might be a problem if somebody is already transferred with that name or whatever. Yeah, but they would just do what they originally do right now. It would be that name with a bunch of numbers, and it would prompt you to change the name. It might make some people upset if they've been playing for the last 2 years with the name, and now they gotta change it.
Yeah, you wouldn't lose your character name.
Yeah, but you could probably check to see if that name is available before you transfer onto that. But and now about balancing, they'll probably do something, but I don't think they'll really do anything unless something like that really bad happens.
I don't think this is an option.
But they've tried to balance stuff like that before by merging like 4 or 5 different servers kind of into one, but not really into one. Like they do right now, where you sign on, there's 4 different servers on one place. So that's something they could probably do. I don't know. So, what do you think about transferring or copying characters to TBC servers? You think that's something they might do?
I don't see it as an option, though.
You don't see it as an option?
No, I don't see them wanting to I don't see. They're not wanting to work that hard.
Yeah, because there'd be a lot of transferring or copying of
Yeah.
characters if that was an option. Because
Yeah. I don't think that's. I don't think that's a viable option. I mean, it's probably an option, but I don't think it's a good one.
yeah, they've thought about it. I think. Now, linear move to TBC. This option is most simple and straightforward. There would be no option to stay in Classic, and all Classic servers will simply move on to TBC, the same way the current game does for every new expansion. This will likely disappoint die-hard Classic WoW fans, and may even cause a resurgence in Classic private servers. However, it's the option that will cause the least amount of problems, will also be acceptable to most players. And other players came back to Classic WoW to re-experience the old content again with fresh eyes. These players likely won't want to run this old content over and over for years to come. Once all Classic content phases have been released and completed, they probably won't touch this content again. For this reason, a linear move to TBC seems like the most likely option. What do you think about that?
This is to me the best option. Yeah, it does.
So you don't think they should have just Classic servers and then
I don't. I don't think they will. No, I don't think they should. I think they because, like they said, you can always go. They can always go back and you'll find, you know, they can always find classic servers that are test servers or that are private servers or whatever, and they can go do all that they want. A lot of people make classic private servers. I think this is a good option. I mean, it would be nice if maybe they threw a couple of servers out there that were classic only, but then again, they're going to have that problem of moving all those people over there. What if somebody has the same name? Yeah. They're going to change their name. What is the guild? So I think the easiest option, the best option for them would be to just do a straight linear movement and make it just like when would retail. You just it moves it over.
So you think maybe that's what they'll do? Is this?
Maybe you don't update yours or something. I don't know. It's going to cause an update, but if you don't update it, you can't play. So,
yeah.
I think this is probably the option that they'll go. I don't think they'll lose a whole lot of people. I think, in fact, this will gain more people because this is when arenas started out. Was in Burning Crusade. That's when, you know, your PvP mattered. It wasn't just battlegrounds anymore. It meant something to have a 2200 rating. So this is when that started, and I think that'll bring a lot of your PvP people back. It'll bring you'll see. I think TBC will be better, and I think them doing it this way would probably be their best option. And that's coming from a pure gaming point, not something that I want to happen. That's coming from a pure gaming point. Is if as a gamer, this is what I would want to see. Okay. Because I would want to, if I've already done the content, if I've already done AQ, if I've already done, Nax, Nax is on farm or this or that or something else. After a while, that stuff gets boring, and you don't want to do it anymore. You're running it for other people or whatever, or now you have alts running it. When your alts are killing and clearing Nax, then it's time to move on. So I think those players would like the new content that's going to come out. It's fresh and new, and it lets them play that, and it's still classic. It's still not classic WoW, but it's still the old school style of WoW. You still have the cookie cutter spec tree and everything else. So I mean, I think this is probably the option that they're going to go.
Okay. Well, I think that's the end of the episode. I think we did pretty good.
Yeah.
So we found out you might make a Blood Elf.
Simply for the racial, yeah.
Yeah, and we discussed some options that they might do. Another option, I think, is to keep the classic servers and just to make a new drop down thing for like when you hit the drop down you can't retail or classic. I think there might be even a drop down for Burning Crusade where you have to start all over fresh for the Burning Crusade. Now, people will probably not want to do that because they've leveled characters up to 60 in the classic. They won't want to level the 60 again and then the 70. So,
Nope.
But that's an option that they've probably thought about. Or even making a new drop down and actually making the option of paying $5-10 to copy your character over there. There's a lot of stuff that'll a lot of stuff they can probably thought about. So whatever decision they've done it's gonna be done, I think. So hopefully we'll find out in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that we're gonna hear about a beta, and I'm hoping that they say, hey, not only is the Burning Crusade coming out, but the beta is going live this weekend or whatever. So that's what I'm hoping for, but you never know. So what are you thinking? I want to know your predictions for BlizzCon Live.
I think that they're going to announce. I think they're going to announce whether TBC is or isn't coming out. I think they'll announce it's coming out. I think that they'll tell us that beta is coming within the next couple of weeks. I think they'll give it to a lot of the top streamers to let them beta test it, and a lot of the pro gamers. They'll get the beta testing first. But I think that overall, I think that the BlizzCon is going to announce that TBC is coming, and they're going to tell us when, probably a roundabout date as to when it's going to drop, and they'll give us a rough estimate as to when the beta is going to drop as well, if they don't tell us the exact time that the beta is going to drop.
Now, if you want to hear us talk about a little bit about the BlizzCon line, what we have read about it, you can go listen to what we've talked about on Wildilla. I just don't want to talk about it every one of the WoW podcasts we have, because I just feel like we're beating a dead horse, talking about it over and over again, because we got Azeroth Tides, which is retail, we got WoW Crusade about TBC, and we got Classic WoW that talks about Vanilla WoW. So Wildilla. So you can listen to any of those, but listen to Wildilla if you want to hear us talk about BlizzCon Online, and have fun playing game.
As always.
This show is brought to you by Heartland Production Entertainment. If you'd like to help to make the show better, go to patreon.com/heartlandpae.